The market stinks of burnt ozone and desperation, a toxic cocktail that makes Elias Vance's eyes water as he limps through the crowd. His right knee gives that familiar complaint he calls rheumatism, a dull, grinding ache that pulses with every step like a biological alarm system. He's already regretting this detour. He should be halfway to the outer rim by now, hauling legitimate cargo, staying off everyone's radar. Instead, he's here on Station Kesek, the armpit of the galaxy, because his contact promised him a deal on engine parts. Around him, the auction floor churns with the worst humanity, and a dozen other species have to offer. Weapons dealers with cybernetic implants hawking plasma rifles. Slaver brokers with dead eyes and data slates full of flesh inventory. Scrap merchants pawning off decommissioned war drones like they're selling used appliances at a yard sale. The air shimmers with heat from too many bodies pressed into too small a space, and the lighting, harsh white overhead floods, makes everyone look sick and washed out. Elias adjusts his jacket, feeling the reassuring weight of his sidearm underneath. His hand brushes the credit chip in his pocket. 15,000 credits. Everything he saved in 6 months. Enough to fix his ship's failing hyperdrive and maybe eat something that didn't come out of a ration tube. And then he sees her. Lot 47. Labeled bioasset, salvage grade, non-sentient classification. The words make Elia's stomach turn. She's chained to a repulsor platform, her wrists shackled in magnetics that hum with a sickly blue glow, the kind that disrupts nervous systems if you wear them too long. She can't be more than 20 standard years, if age even translates across species. Her skin is pale gray, almost luminescent in the harsh overhead lights, with an opalescent quality that catches the light like mother of pearl. Her eyes metallic gold, like someone poured molten bronze into her skull and let it stare at nothing. There's no expression on her face. No fear, no anger, no hope, just emptiness. She's wearing what used to be a jumpsuit, now torn and filthy. Her hair, if you can call it that, more like fine crystalline strands, hangs limp around her face. Someone has marked her with an inventory tag, a crude barcode laser-etched onto her left shoulder blade. Property, merchandise, salvage. The auctioneer, a Krellian with too many teeth and compound eyes that glitter with greed, barks into the crowd. His translator renders his clicking mandibles into flat galactic standard. 1,600 credits for the lot. 1,600. Former Dominion bioproject decommissioned. Excellent for labor, medical research, or component harvesting. Do I hear 17? Component harvesting. The words hang in the air like a curse. Elias feels his hands curl into fists. Elias stops walking. His gut twists. The girl's arm shifts slightly, and that's when he sees it. A pattern of bioluminescent markings traces up from her wrist to her shoulder, faint but unmistakable. Geometric. Deliberate. He's seen markings like that exactly once before, in a classified briefing during the Asheran conflict. Royal gene sigils, reserved for the highest echelons of the Asherite Dominion. 1,700, someone shouts. Elias doesn't think, he raises his hand. 3,000. The crowd goes silent, the auctioneer's eyes narrow. The Krellian leans forward, mandibles clicking. 3,000 credits for lot 47, going once. A voice cuts through from the back, cold, military, precise. 5,000. Elias turns. A Dominion officer in gray armor steps forward, flanked by 2 enforcers in full combat gear. The insignia on his chest plate marks him as Special Assets Recovery, the kind of unit that doesn't ask questions, just collects. His face is hard, angular, with the look of someone who's made peace with doing terrible things in the name of orders. The crowd parts for him instinctively. Nobody wants trouble with Special Assets Recovery. Elias smiles. It's the smile that got him discharged from the Navy, the one that says he's already committed to a terrible idea. His knee throbs harder. 10,000. The crowd goes silent. You could hear a credit chip drop. The Krellian auctioneer's mandibles freeze mid-click. The officer's face doesn't change, but his hand moves to his sidearm. You're interfering with military operations, human. Stand down. I'm buying scrap at an open auction, Elias says, keeping his voice light. He taps his wrist terminal, and the credit transfer pings through the market's network. Unless you've got 12,000 burning a hole in your pocket, she's mine. That's how markets work, officer. Supply, demand, and the biggest pile of credits. The Krellian auctioneer hesitates, compound eyes darting between Elias and the officer. Credits talk louder than threats on Kesek. Sold. Lot 47 to the human. That's when the queen's sigil lit up on her skin. The girl's bioluminescent markings flare bright. A sudden pulse of silver-blue light that makes everyone in the immediate vicinity flinch. The energy discharge crackles through the air, smelling of ozone and something else, something organic and alien. The chains around her wrists crack with a sound like breaking glass, and she collapses forward. Elias catches her before she hits the deck, his knee screaming in protest. She's lighter than he expected, almost weightless, as if her bones are hollow. Her skin is warm to the touch, warmer than human skin should be, and he can feel a faint vibration running through her, a resonance like she's a tuning fork struck and still humming. Okay, he mutters, hauling her upright and slinging her arm over his shoulders. We're leaving, right now. No discussion, no debate, we are getting the hell out of here. The Dominion officer draws his weapon, a standard-issue plasma pistol, military grade, capable of punching through body armor at 30 meters. The barrel glows with building charge. Step away from the asset, final warning. Elias doesn't step away. He shifts his weight, putting himself between the officer and the girl, feeling every year of his 34 years pressing down on him. His knee feels like ground glass. See, here's the thing. I just paid 10,000 credits for salvage. That's a closed transaction. You want her. Buy her back. Otherwise, you're threatening a lawful transaction which Station Kesek does not appreciate. He raises his voice, projecting to the crowd. And Kesek's security takes a very dim view of people who disrupt commerce. Isn't that right? The crowd around them starts to murmur. On Kesek, commerce is sacred. It's the only thing that keeps the station from tearing itself apart. Interrupting a closed deal is how you start riots. Hands move toward concealed weapons. The tension ratchets up another notch. The auction floor is one spark away from a bloodbath. The officer's jaw tightens. His enforcers raise their rifles, but the crowd's already shifting, hands moving toward concealed weapons. The auction floor is one spark away from a bloodbath. Elias grins, though his heart is hammering in his chest. Your move, officer. For 5 long seconds, nobody breathes. The standoff hangs in the balance, everyone waiting to see who breaks first. Then the officer lowers his weapon. His jaw is tight enough to crack teeth. This isn't over, human. We will find you. And when we do, you will regret this interference. It never is, Elias says cheerfully, though his hands are shaking. He slings the girl's arm over his shoulder more securely and starts walking, each step sending a jolt of white-hot pain through his knee. Come on, kid. Let's get you somewhere that doesn't smell like a war crime and bad decisions. Behind him, the officer speaks into his comm unit, low and urgent. Alert the command ship. The asset is mobile. Target is a human male, early 30s, brown hair, limping. Last seen heading toward the docking bays. Designate as high priority retrieval. Authorization code Delta 77. Elias doesn't hear it. He's too busy dragging the girl through the crowd, pushing past gawkers and profiteers, and people who are very deliberately not looking at them. The auction floor connects to a main concourse, a wide corridor lined with shops and service vendors. The lighting here is dimmer, more orange than white, and the air recyclers hum loud enough to rattle teeth. His ship, the Halcyon's Grace, is parked in Bay 7. It's a 40-year-old Cormorant-class freighter held together with spite, prayer, and approximately 7 different types of structural tape. The hyperdrive wheezes like an asthmatic. The artificial gravity fluctuates when you run the galley and the engines at the same time, and the hull plating has more patches than original metal. But it's his, paid for with blood and sweat, and it's got a jump drive that still works most of the time. That's all that matters. They make it halfway to the docking bays before the girl speaks. Why? Her voice is soft, scraped raw like she hasn't used it in months, like she's forgotten what it sounds like. Elias doesn't slow down, doesn't break stride. His knee is a symphony of complaints, but he ignores it. Why what? Why did you buy me? The question is simple, but there's a weight to it. Layers of confusion and suspicion, and something that might be hope buried so deep she's afraid to let it surface. Because leaving you there felt wrong, Elias says. Simple, direct, true. He adjusts his grip, feeling her weight shift against him. And because my rheumatism is acting up, which means bad weather's coming, metaphorically speaking. Rheumatism. She stumbles over the word, unfamiliar with the term. Old injury. Left knee. Complains when trouble's nearby. Like a biological early warning system, except it only works retrospectively and also hurts like hell. He manages a grin despite the pain. Right now, it's screaming bloody murder, which means we're neck-deep in trouble and sinking fast. She doesn't respond immediately. Her weight sags heavier against him, and he realizes she's barely conscious. The energy discharge from her markings must have taken everything she had. The bioluminescent patterns on her arm have dimmed to a faint glow, barely visible under the corridor lighting. They reach Bay 7. The docking clamps release with a hydraulic hiss, and warning lights flash amber as the boarding ramp extends. Elias half carries, half drags her up the ramp, his leg threatening to give out entirely. The moment they're inside, the ramp retracts and the airlock cycles shut with a heavy thunk that reverberates through the deck. Inside, the Halcyon's grace is cramped and smells like recycled air, engine grease, and the faint chemical tang of life support fluids. The walls are covered in exposed wiring and maintenance panels, everything labeled in faded stencil. It's not pretty, but it's functional, and right now that's all that matters. A small spherical drone detaches from the ceiling and floats toward them, its optical sensors whirring as they focus. The drone is about the size of a soccer ball, matte black with 3 glowing blue sensor strips arranged in a triangular pattern. It's old military surplus, refitted for civilian use, and absolutely convinced of its own superiority. Unit K9X reporting, the drone says in a flat, synthesized voice that somehow manages to sound disapproving. You have returned with unauthorized cargo, Captain Vance. This violates station docking protocols as well as several interstellar trafficking laws. I am obligated to file a formal complaint. Her name's not cargo knick-knack, Elias snaps. He lowers the girl into a jump seat and straps her in, his hands working the buckles by muscle memory. And you're not filing anything. Run a med scan, make sure she's stable. That's in order. The drone, officially designated Unit K9X, but nicknamed Knick-Knack after it kept reorganizing Elias' spare parts in alphabetical order instead of by function, hovers closer. A blue scanning beam plays across the girl's face, moving down her body in precise geometric patterns. Biosigns nominal, heart rate elevated but stable, minor dehydration, severe psychological trauma. Bioluminescent epidermal patterns consistent with Asherite Dominion royal lineage. Genetic markers indicate. Elias freezes, his hand still on the safety harness. Say that again, slowly. Royal lineage. Genetic markers indicate direct connection to the Asherite ruling caste. Specifically, Queen Zelora's genetic line. This individual is either a biological daughter, a clone variant, or a succession candidate. Probability of positive identification, 98.3%. Fantastic. Elias rubs his face with both hands, feeling the stubble rasp against his palms. Just fantastic. I just bought a princess off a scrap dealer. Using my entire life savings. This is fine. Everything is fine. The girl's eyes flutter open. They focus on him, sharp and wary despite her exhaustion, like an animal that's been hurt too many times to trust easily. Not a princess. Then what are you? She hesitates, her jaw working like she's trying to remember how to form words. My name is Lyra. Elias Vance, he says. He extends a hand, palm up, non-threatening. After a moment she takes it. Her grip is weak but deliberate, her skin warm and vibrating with that same subtle resonance he felt earlier. Nice to meet you, Lyra. Now, would you mind explaining why a Dominion officer just tried to kill me over you? And why my ship's drone is telling me you're royalty? Because I'm not supposed to exist, she says quietly. Her voice is steadier now, but there's a hollowness to it. I'm an accident, an experiment that succeeded too well. A backup plan nobody wanted activated. You're going to have to elaborate on that. She pulls her hand back, wrapping her arms around herself like she's cold despite the ship's climate control. Queen Zelura is immortal. Or close to it. She's ruled for 800 standard years, but even immortals can be killed, assassinated, lost in war. So the Dominion created me, a replacement, genetically identical but grown in a lab. Programmed with her memories, her knowledge, her authority codes. If she dies, I step in. The throne continues. The empire doesn't collapse. That's horrifying. That's pragmatic, Lyra corrects. Except I wasn't supposed to wake up. I wasn't supposed to develop consciousness. I was supposed to be dormant until needed. But something went wrong, or right depending on your perspective. I woke up. Started asking questions. Started wanting things. Started being me instead of her. She looks down at her hands. They didn't know what to do with me, so they labeled me defective, stripped my designation, sold me to the highest bidder as salvage. Elias sits down across from her, his knee finally getting the rest it's been demanding. You know what I think? What? I think that's the dumbest thing I've heard all week. And I spent 3 hours yesterday listening to Nick Knack explain the thermodynamic efficiency of different coffee brewing methods at various atmospheric pressures. Lyra blinks, confusion flickering across her face. What? You're a person, Lyra. I don't care what the Dominion says. I don't care what your DNA says. I don't care if you're a clone or a daughter or a replacement or whatever label they stuck on you. You're sitting here talking to me, making your own decisions. That makes you a person. End of discussion, not negotiable. She stares at him like he's spoken in a dead language, like the concept is so foreign she can't parse it. You don't understand. I'm connected to Queen Zelura, I'm her, she falters, searching for words. I was created to be her replacement. If she dies, I become the queen. If I'm captured, I'm used to control her. My existence is a strategic liability. I'm not a person, I'm a function. No, Elias says firmly. It's what other people decided your function was. That doesn't make it true. You get to decide who you are, not them. Lyra looks away, her hands trembling slightly. You're naive. I've been called worse. Elias stands, his knee popping audibly, the sound like a cork being pulled from a bottle. Look, here's the deal. You're on my ship. That means you're under my protection. I don't care if the entire Dominion fleet shows up. I bought you, which means, legally speaking, you're my responsibility until you decide otherwise. You can't protect me from the Queen. Maybe not, but I can try. He taps the side of his head. I'm stubborn like that. Comes with being human. We've got this defect in our species where we look at impossible odds and think, yeah, but what if I just ignore those? For the first time, something flickers in Lyra's expression. Not quite a smile, but close. A crack in the armor. You're insane. That too. Elias heads toward the cockpit, pausing at the bulkhead. Get some rest. We've got a 2-day jump ahead of us. Nick Knack will keep an eye on you. And eat something, even if it's just the ration bar. You're going to need your strength. The Halcyon's grace clears Kessek's gravity well 20 minutes later, the station shrinking to a pinpoint behind them. Elias feeds coordinates into the nav computer, plotting a jump to the fringe territories. The jump drive spools up with a whine that makes him wince. It's not supposed to sound like that. And then reality twists and they're in hyperspace, the stars outside stretching into infinite lines of light. In the cargo bay, Lyra finally picks up the ration pack. She opens it slowly, like she's forgotten how, and takes a small bite. It tastes like cardboard and protein paste, but it's food. She finishes it mechanically, then curls up on the supply crate, pulling an emergency blanket around herself. Behind her, Lyra finally picks up the ration pack. She opens it slowly, like she's forgotten how. In the cockpit, Knick-Knack hovers beside the nav console. Query, do you have a plan, Captain Vance? Not even a little bit, Elias admits. He drops into the pilot's seat and pulls up the star charts. But we're not going back to Keswick, that's for sure. The Dominion knows we're out here. They will deploy tracking assets. Probably, which is why we're heading to the fringe. No jurisdiction, no extradition treaties, and a lot of very unfriendly people who don't ask questions. That is a terrible plan. It's the only plan I've got. Elias leans back, massaging his knee. Also, my rheumatism is still acting up, which means we're not out of trouble yet. Your psychosomatic joint pain is not a reliable threat indicator. It's worked so far. Knick-Knack emits a sound approximating a sigh. I am surrounded by illogical biological entities. Welcome to humanity, Elias says. 2 days later, the Halcyon's Grace drops out of hyperspace near the edge of the Korath Nebula. The fringe is a lawless strip of space where 3 territorial borders meet, and none of the major powers want to commit resources. Pirate havens, black market depots, and independent colonies dot the region like infected wounds. Elias brings the ship in toward a refueling station called Orin's Reach. It's a spinning habitat built into the husk of an old cruiser, patched together with salvaged hull plating and desperation. Lyra stands behind him in the cockpit, watching the station grow larger on the view screen. She's cleaned up, wearing a spare flight suit Elias found in storage. The bioluminescent markings on her arm are still visible, but she's wrapped a sleeve over them. You sure about this? She asks. Nope. Elias guides the ship toward the docking cradle. But we need fuel and supplies, and I need to contact someone who can help us disappear. Who? Old friend smuggler owes me a favor. Lyra crosses her arms. You have terrible taste in friends. You're not wrong. The ship shudders as the docking clamps engage. Elias powers down the engines and stands, his knee protesting. Stay close and keep that sleeve down. Last thing we need is someone recognizing your markings. They disembark into the station. Orin's Reach is crowded and chaotic, a mix of species and ships passing through. The air smells like machine oil and something vaguely organic that Elias doesn't want to identify. Knick-Knack floats along behind them, its sensors scanning constantly. This environment is suboptimal for concealment. Probability of hostile contact, 73%. Always the optimist, Elias mutters. He leads them through the main concourse toward a bar called the Rusty Valve. Inside, the lighting is dim and the music is too loud. Elias scans the room and spots his contact at a corner booth. Her name is Senna Cord, a Vexian with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. She's drinking something that glows faintly green. When she sees Elias, she raises one hand in greeting. Vance, thought you were dead. Close enough. Elias slides into the booth. Lyra sits beside him, tense. I need a favor. You always need favors. Senna's eyes flick to Lyra. Who's the girl? Nobody, Elias says quickly. I'm just getting her somewhere safe. Senna leans forward. You're terrible at lying, Vance. What did you do? Bought her off a scrap dealer on Keswick. That was stupid. It's been a recurring theme lately. Elias rests his arms on the table. I need new ID chips, 2 of them, clean histories, no flags. That's expensive. I've got credits. Senna studies him for a long moment. Then she looks at Lyra, her expression shifts. Stars above, that's royal Asherite skinwork. Lyra tenses. Elias' hand moves to the sidearm under his jacket. Senna. Relax. Senna holds up 2 of her hands. I'm not turning you in. I'm just wondering how much trouble you've bought yourself. She leans back. Do you know who she is? She's a person, Elias says flatly. That's all I need to know. Senna laughs. You really are insane. She drains her drink. Fine, I'll get you the IDs, but it'll take 3 days and you're paying triple. Done. And Vance, if the Dominion comes looking, I never saw you. Understood. They leave the bar. Outside, the concourse is even more crowded. Lyra walks close to Elias, her eyes darting around nervously. She recognized me. She won't say anything, Elias reassures her. Senna's loyal in her own way. You trust a smuggler. I trust people who keep their word. Species doesn't matter. Lyra doesn't respond. They're halfway back to the docking bay when Knick-Knack emits a sharp beep. Alert! Hostile contacts approaching. 6 individuals, armed, moving to intercept. Elias swears. He grabs Lyra's arm and pulls her into a side corridor. This way, fast. They run. Behind them, shouts echo through the station. Boots slam against metal deck plating. Elias' knee screams with every step, his rheumatism flaring hot and sharp. I really hate being right, he gasps. They burst into a maintenance shaft. Elias slams the door shut and engages the manual lock. Sparks fly as someone on the other side tries to cut through with a plasma torch. Knick-Knack, alternate route, now. The drone projects a holographic map. Emergency access tunnel, 40 meters ahead, leads to lower docking bays. Good enough? Elias pulls Lyra forward. They scramble through the narrow tunnel, pipes hissing steam around them. The sounds of pursuit fade behind them. They emerge into the lower bay, a dingy section filled with older, less reputable ships. Elias scans the area. Okay, we lay low until Senna comes through with the IDs. Find a cheap berth, keep our heads down. They know we're here, Lyra says. She's breathing hard, her face flushed. They'll search every ship. Then we don't stay on a ship. Elias points to a section of the station marked long-term storage. We hide in plain sight, come on. They slip into the storage area, finding an unused cargo container. Elias props the door open just enough for light and air. Inside, they sit on the cold metal floor, catching their breath. Lyra pulls her knees to her chest. This is my fault. It's not. If I didn't exist. Stop. Elias' voice is sharp. You didn't ask to be created. You didn't ask to be used as leverage. None of this is your fault. Then whose fault is it? The people who decided you were property, Elias says. He leans back against the container wall, massaging his knee. And the people chasing us, they're the problem, not you. Lyra is quiet for a long time. Then she says, why are you doing this? Because it's the right thing to do. That's not a good enough reason. You could die, you could. I've had worse Mondays, Elias interrupts. He smiles. Look, I'm not a hero. I'm just a guy with a ship and a bad habit of sticking my nose where it doesn't belong. But I'm not leaving you to get captured. So you're stuck with me, deal with it. Lyra stares at him, then slowly she nods. Deal. 3 days pass. Elias and Lyra stay hidden, moving between storage containers and maintenance tunnels. Knick-Knack scouts ahead, mapping patrol patterns and keeping watch. On the 3rd day, Senna contacts them. Meet me at Dock 12. I've got your IDs. They rendezvous in a quiet corner of the dock. Senna hands over 2 small chips, each no bigger than a fingernail. These are clean. New names, new histories. As far as the network's concerned, you're a freight hauler and his assistant. Thanks. Elias passes her a credit chip. We're square. We're square. Senna hesitates. Vance, you should know, there's chatter on the black market. Someone's put out a bounty on the girl. Big money, everyone's looking. Elias' stomach drops. How big? 500,000 credits. Lyra goes pale. Elias swears under his breath. Who put it out? That's the weird part. It's not the Dominion, it's an independent contract. Anonymous client. That doesn't make sense. Who else would want her? Senna shrugs. I don't know. But be careful. 500,000 attracts the worst kind of attention. They return to the Halcyon's Grace and prepare to leave. Elias runs pre-flight checks while Lyra straps into the co-pilot seat. Knick-Knack hovers near the navigation console. Destination. The drone asks. Anywhere but here, Elias says. He powers up the engines. Set a course for the outer colonies. We'll figure out the rest once we're moving. The ship disengages from the dock and accelerates away from Orin's reach. Behind them, the station shrinks into the distance. Lyra watches the view screen. They won't stop looking. I know. Eventually, they'll find us. I know that too. Elias glances at her, but we're not giving up, not yet. Why not? Because I'm stubborn. And because my rheumatism hasn't calmed down yet, which means the universe isn't done throwing problems at us. Lyra almost smiles. Your pain is not a reliable indicator. You sound like knick-knack. Query, is that an insult? The drone interjects. Yes, Elias and Lyra say in unison. For a brief moment, the tension eases. Then the proximity alarm blares. Contacts, Knick-Knack announces. Multiple signatures jumping in at high velocity. Elias pulls up the scanner. His blood turns cold. 6 ships, heavy cruisers materializing out of hyperspace in perfect formation. And behind them, a massive dreadnought, its hull black as the void, etched with silver glyphs that pulse with ancient power. No, Lyra whispers. No, no, no. Who is that? Elias demands. Queen Zelora. Lyra's voice breaks. She's here. The dreadnought moves like a predator, slow and deliberate. Its weapons are not charging. Sensors would show that. But the threat is implicit in every line of its hull. It's simply present, massive and unstoppable, filling the view screen with obsidian plating and glowing crimson lines that pulse like veins carrying molten blood. The ship is ancient, predating most current stellar civilizations, built with technologies that have been lost and found and lost again. Looking at it feels like staring into the face of history itself. Elias' hands hover over the controls, fingers twitching. Every instinct in his body is screaming at him to run. The jump drive is still warm. He could spool it up, make the jump, hope they can't track him. If I jump now, she'll follow, Lyra says. Her voice is hollow, defeated. She's standing behind him now, one hand braced on the back of his chair for support. She's locked onto my gene sigil, the markings. They're not just decorative, they're beacons. She can track me anywhere in the galaxy, through hyperspace, through sensor-dead zones, through everything. Running is pointless. Fantastic. Elias leans back, his mind racing through options and discarding them just as quickly. None of them are good. Okay, new plan, we don't run. What? Lyra's hand tightens on the chair. You can't. We talk. Elias opens a calm channel, his finger steady on the control despite the adrenaline flooding his system. This is Elias Vance, captain of the Halcyon's Grace. I'm requesting a parley under neutral space protocols. Static crackles through the speakers. For 10 seconds there's nothing. Then a voice, deep and resonant, laced with cold authority that makes the air itself seem heavier. You dare address the eternal throne with demands. I dare, Elias says evenly. Because you're blocking my flight path and I'd like to know why. Silence, then. You possess something that belongs to us. She's not a possession, Elias says. She's a person. You know nothing of her nature, human. I know enough. Elias glances at Lyra. She's frozen, her face pale. I know she was sold as scrap. I know she was treated like garbage. And I know I'm not handing her back so you can do the same. Another pause. When the voice returns, it's sharper. You misunderstand. We are not here to reclaim property. We are here to reclaim kin. Then why was she being sold on Kesek? She was taken, the voice says. Stolen, by those who sought to use her against us. You, human, have intervened in matters far beyond your comprehension. Elias rubs his face. All right. Let me get this straight. She's royalty. She was kidnapped, and I accidentally bought her from the kidnappers. Correct. And now you're here to what? Thank me. We are here, the voice says, to meet the human who dared to defy the order of things. A docking clamp extends from the dreadnought. It locks onto the Halcyon's Grace with a magnetic thud. You are summoned before Queen Zelora, the voice says. Bring the girl. Elias looks at Lyra. She's shaking. I can't. You don't have to, Elias says. I'll go alone. No, Lyra straightens, her jaw set. If this is happening, we go together. You sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Elias nods. Okay, let's go meet a queen. The dreadnought's interior is a cathedral of war. Obsidian walls rise high, 30 meters or more, lit by crimson lighting that pulses like a heartbeat, like the ship itself is alive. The architecture is alien, all sharp angles and flowing curves that shouldn't work together but somehow do, creating spaces that feel both vast and claustrophobic. Gravity is heavier here, 0.3 standard gravs above normal, pressing down on Elias' shoulders like invisible hands. His knee throbs with every step, the extra weight making the old injury scream. They walk down a central corridor that seems to stretch forever, flanked by Asherite soldiers in black armor so dark it seems to absorb light. Each soldier stands perfectly still, weapons held at ready positions, visors down so that no face is visible. They don't speak. They don't even look at Lyra. They simply exist, their movements synchronized and mechanical when they occasionally shift position, like pieces on a chessboard being moved by an invisible player. Knick-Knack floats behind, ignored by the guards. Its sensors sweep constantly, recording everything. Observation: this is a poor tactical environment for escape. Zero cover, multiple hostile contacts. Energy weapons detect charging at standby levels. Probability of successful retreat, 0.03%. Noted, Elias mutters. Thanks for the optimism. I am calibrated for accuracy, not optimism. The corridor opens into a throne room. It's massive, easily 100 meters across, its ceiling lost in shadow so deep that even the crimson lighting can't penetrate it. The floor is polished obsidian, reflecting their images back at them like dark mirrors. At the far end, elevated on a dais carved from a single piece of dark crystal that seems to drink in light, sits Queen Zelora. She's terrifying, not because she's large. She's not much taller than a human, perhaps 2 meters at most, but because of the sheer presence she radiates. Her armor is black and red, ancient and ornate, etched with glyphs that glow faintly with their own inner light. The symbols are pre-expansion script, a language older than most spacefaring civilizations. Her eyes are crimson, burning with an intelligence that feels older than stars, older than the void itself. When she looks at you, it feels like she's reading the history of your entire species in the space of a heartbeat. She watches them approach. Elias notices her gaze lingers on Lyra, something unreadable flickering across her face, concern. Anger, relief. It's gone too quickly to identify. Kneel, one of the guards commands, his voice amplified by his helmet speakers. Elias doesn't kneel. With all due respect, I kneel for nobody. The guards tense, weapons hum to life. Zelora raises one hand and the room falls silent. You are bold, human, Zelora says. Her voice is the same one from the comm, but hearing it in person is different. It's layered, resonant, like an echo from deep space. Or foolish. Probably both, Elias admits. But I'm here because you asked, so let's talk. Zelora tilts her head. You do not fear us. I'm terrified, but fear doesn't mean I stop thinking. Interesting. Zelora's gaze shifts to Lyra. Child, come forward. Lyra steps forward slowly. Her hands are shaking. My queen. You have endured much, Zelora says. Her voice softens just slightly. We felt your pain across the void. We tracked those who took you. They have been punished. Punished? Elias echoes. Zelora's eyes snap to him. They were slavers, traffickers. They sold our kin as salvage. Their station no longer exists. You blew up Kesek. We removed a blight, Zelora says. Those who profit from suffering will face judgment. Elias feels a chill. What about everyone else on that station? They were evacuated. We are not monsters, human. We are enforcers of balance. And me? Elias asks. What happens to me? Zelora studies him. You purchased her for a sum that bankrupted your accounts. You protected her. You refused to yield her to those who hunted her. Why? Because it was the right thing to do. That is not sufficient reason. You are not Asherite, she is not your kin. You owed her nothing. I'm human, Elias says. We have this annoying habit of caring about people even when it's inconvenient. Zelora's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in her gaze. You intrigue us, Elias Vance. Most would have sold her for the bounty, or handed her to the Dominion. You did neither. The bounty was a trap, wasn't it? Elias says. You put it out to see who would come for her. Correct. And now you know. Now we know, Zelora agrees. The Dominion sought to use her as leverage. Other factions sought to kill her, to wound us. And you, she pauses. You sought to save her. So what happens now? Elias asks. Do I get a medal, or do you kill me for seeing too much? Zelora stands. She descends from the throne, her movements fluid and precise. She stops in front of Elias, towering over him. We do not kill those who act with honor. Good to know. But you have seen our face. You have heard our words. You carry knowledge of our kin. This creates complications. I'm not going to tell anyone, Elias says. We believe you, but belief is not certainty. Zelora's crimson eyes bore into his. There is another way. You could serve us, formally, as an emissary, a bridge between your kind and ours. Elias blinks. You want me to work for you. We want you to continue doing what you do, acting with integrity, protecting those who cannot protect themselves, but with our support. And if I say no? Zelora's expression doesn't change. Then you leave, with our gratitude, but without Lyra. Lyra stiffens. What? You are kin, Zelora says gently. You belong with your people. I don't belong anywhere, Lyra says, her voice cracking. You created me to be a tool, a replacement. I'm not. You are more than we intended, Zelora interrupts. You are alive, you are conscious. You are ours to protect, not to use, but you are still kin, and kin do not abandon kin. Lyra looks at Elias, her eyes wide and desperate. Elias feels his chest tighten. She's not your prisoner, he says quietly. She gets to choose. Do you claim her as yours? Zelora asks. I claim her as a person with free will, Elias says. She decides her own life. Not you, not me. Zelora regards him for a long moment. Then she turns to Lyra. Is this what you want, to remain with him? Lyra's voice is barely a whisper. I don't know what I want, but he's the first person who's ever asked. Zelora's expression softens. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, but it's there. Then you will stay with him for now. Until you are certain. Wait, Elias says, just like that. Just like that. Zelora returns to her throne. You have proven yourself human, and we are not tyrants. We do not force loyalty. We earn it. So we're free to go. You are free to go, but understand, our eyes will remain upon you. If you harm her, if you betray her, you will face us, and we will not be merciful. Understood? Elias bows slightly. Thank you, Your Majesty. Zelora's lips twitch, almost a smile. You are unprecedented, Elias Vance. We will be watching with great interest. Back aboard the Halcyon's Grace, Elias and Lyra sit in the cockpit. The dreadnought has released them, and the fleet is already dispersing into hyperspace. The stars are quiet again. Lyra stares at her hands. I don't understand. Why did she let me go? Because she's smarter than I gave her credit for, Elias says. She knows forcing you to stay would only drive you away. This way, you might come back on your own terms. Will I? That's up to you. Lyra is quiet. Then she says, thank you. For what? For asking, for treating me like a person. You are a person, Elias says. He stretches his leg, his knee popping. And for the record, my rheumatism finally calmed down. Which means the universe is done messing with us. For now. Lyra almost laughs. You and your pain. It's a gift. Knick-Knack hovers nearby. Query, what is our next destination? Elias leans back in his chair. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere boring. Somewhere we can get a decent meal and a full night's sleep. Such a location may not exist, Knick-Knack observes. Then we'll keep looking. Elias grins. That's the plan. Keep moving, keep surviving. Keep doing the right thing. That is a terrible plan, Knick-Knack says. It's the best I've got. Lyra smiles. It's small, tentative, but genuine. I think I can live with that. Good, Elias powers up the engines. Then let's get out of here. I've had enough excitement for 1 week. The Halcyon's Grace jumps to hyperspace, leaving the battlefield behind. Below, on a dozen worlds, whispers spread. The Asherite Queen has made contact with a human. She did not destroy him. She did not enslave him. She let him go. The galaxy doesn't understand it, but it remembers. And in the fringe, in the dark corners where the desperate and the dangerous gather, a new legend begins to form. The story of a human who bought a girl labeled as scrap, who stood before an alien queen and refused to bow, who treated an engineered replacement as a person, and in doing so changed the rules. Some call him a fool. Some call him a hero. Elias Vance calls it a Tuesday. But in the quiet of the Halcyon's Grace, as the stars blur past and Lyra sleeps in the co-pilot seat, Elias allows himself a moment of reflection. His knee aches. His ship is falling apart. His bank account is empty. And somewhere out there the Asherite Queen is watching. He should be terrified. He should be planning his escape. He should be regretting every choice that led him here. Instead, he smiles. Because for the first time in years he feels like he's done something that matters. Not for glory, not for profit, but because it was right. And that, Elias thinks, is worth every credit he spent, every risk he took, every moment of fear. The rheumatism in his knee flares one more time, a sharp reminder that trouble is never far away. But Elias doesn't flinch. He's made peace with trouble. It's an old friend by now. Beside him, Lyra stirs. Elias. Yeah. But where are we going? Honestly, no idea. He glances at her. But wherever it is we're going together, sound good. Lyra nods. Sounds good. The Halcyon's Grace flies on, a tiny speck against the infinite dark. Behind it, an empire watches. Ahead, the unknown waits. And inside, two people, different species, different worlds, different lives, find something neither expected. Hope. In the bridge of the dreadnought, Queen Zelora stands alone. Her advisors have departed, her fleet has dispersed. She watches the sensor feed tracking the human ship. Remarkable, she murmurs. A lieutenant approaches, hesitant. Your Majesty, should we continue surveillance? Yes, but passively. Do not interfere. And if he fails, if the girl is harmed? Zelora's eyes narrow. He will not fail. How can you be certain? Because he is human, Zelora says. And humans, for all their flaws, possess a singular gift. They do not accept the world as it is. They insist on making it better, even when it costs them everything. The lieutenant bows and withdraws. Zelora remains, her gaze fixed on the distant stars. You have our attention, Elias Vance, she whispers. Let us see what you do with it. And across the galaxy, in a dozen black markets and war rooms and throne halls, the word spreads. The Queen has chosen a champion. Not through conquest, not through law, but through an act so simple it baffled empires. He bought her. He saved her. He asked her what she wanted, and the galaxy will never be the same. Months later, Elias sits in a cantina on a backwater colony. His knee is propped up on a second chair. Lyra sits across from him, reading a datapad. Knick-Knack hovers nearby, scanning for threats. A stranger approaches their table. You're Elias Vance. Elias looks up. Depends who's asking. Someone who needs help. I've heard the stories. They say you stood up to the Asherite Queen. That's an exaggeration. They say you saved someone everyone else had given up on. Elias sighs. What do you need? The stranger slides a hollow chip across the table. There's a convoy, refugees. They're trapped behind Dominion lines. No one will go in, but I've got coordinates, and I've got credits. I'm not a hero, Elias says. I'm not asking for a hero. I'm asking for someone who gives a damn. Elias looks at Lyra. She raises an eyebrow. Your rheumatism acting up. Like you wouldn't believe. Then we're going. The stranger blinks, just like that. Just like that. Elias stands, his knee protesting. But don't call me a hero. I'm just a guy with a ship and a really bad habit. As they leave, Knick-Knack emits a resigned beep. This is illogical. Yup, Elias agrees. You will likely get injured. Probably. And yet you proceed. That's the human condition, Elias says. We see a problem, we fix it, even when it's stupid. Lyra smiles. Especially when it's stupid. They board the Halcyon's Grace. The engines roar to life. And somewhere in the depths of space, a queen watches and nods in approval. The legend continues. The galaxy changes. And Elias Vance, salvage runner, ex-pilot, accidental diplomat, and professional pain in the ass, flies on. Because someone has to. And because, despite everything, it's the right thing to do, even on a Tuesday.